Dante Wolf was going to fire her. Ayana could see it in the way he looked at her across the morning room, pale gray eyes tracking her every movement with the focus of a man who had decided she was a problem that needed solving. She had been working in his Cape Town estate for exactly 9 days, and for 8 of those days he had been waiting for her to make a mistake. She was not going to give him one. She poured his coffee with the steady hands of someone who had learned early that showing fear was the same as losing. She set it down precisely where his left hand would find it without looking. She stepped back to the appropriate distance, close enough to be useful, far enough to be invisible. He picked up the cup. He looked at her over the rim. "You're very good at this." "Thank you, sir." "Too good." He set the cup down without drinking. No one is this good at being invisible unless they've practiced. And the only people who practice are people with something to hide. Ayana kept her expression perfectly neutral. Years of training, the kind she was not supposed to have, had made her excellent at this. "I'm just doing my job, sir." "Your job." He leaned back in his chair, all coiled predator patience. "Which you got through an agency that has no record of placing you anywhere before this. With references from hotels that, when I called them, had never heard of you. Using a work visa that is technically valid but was processed through channels that are, let's say, unusual." Her heart rate did not change. This was important. "I can explain, don't." He stood, crossed to where she stood, stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that would have been handsome if it wasn't currently arranged into an expression of absolute distrust. "I don't want explanations. I want the truth. Who sent you?" "No one sent me." "Then why are you here?" Because 6 months ago she had killed a man in Lagos and needed to disappear to a place where no one would think to look for a trained operative. Because the syndicate she had once worked for was now hunting her. Because Dante Wolf's estate in Cape Town was so well protected that it was, paradoxically, the safest place she could hide. She said none of this. "I needed work," she said. "I needed somewhere no one knew me. That's all." He studied her face for a long moment. Then he said, very quietly, "You're lying. And I'm going to find out why." He walked out of the morning room. Ayana stood alone in the Cape Town sunlight streaming through the windows and thought, this man is going to be a problem. She had no idea yet how right she was, or how much more complicated problem was about to become. If you want to know what happens when a trained operative and a paranoid crime lord are forced to trust each other, and what happens when distrust becomes something far more dangerous, keep reading. Because this story is about to get very complicated, very passionate, and very, very intense. Ayana Keita had walked away from intelligence work with a body count, a fake passport, and $37,000 in an offshore account that no government knew existed. She had worked for the syndicate for 6 years, a private intelligence contractor that operated in the gray spaces between governments and served whoever paid enough. She had been good at it. Excellent, actually. Languages, infiltration, information extraction. She spoke 5 languages fluently and could pass for a local in a dozen cities. She had a talent for becoming whoever the mission required. Then Lagos had happened. A target who turned out to be the wrong target. An order she had followed that she should have questioned. Blood on her hands that would not come off no matter how many times she told herself it was justified. She had walked away. The syndicate did not accept resignations. They had sent someone after her. She had dealt with that someone in Nairobi, permanently, and understood that they would send more. So she had come to Cape Town. Not as Ayana Keita, intelligence operative. As Ayana Keita, domestic worker, invisible and harmless. The irony of hiding in a crime lord's house was not lost on her. Dante Wolf. He was 41, the product of a German arms dealer father and a South African activist mother, a combination that had resulted in a man who understood both violence and principle and had built an empire on the uncomfortable intersection of the two. The Wolf organization controlled shipping, diamonds, and information across southern Africa. They did it quietly, efficiently, and with a moral code that was, according to Rafe, the right-hand man who had briefed Diana on her first day, surprisingly robust. No human trafficking. No children. No unnecessary violence. Everything else was negotiable. Dante ran it from an estate perched on the slopes above Cape Town, all white stone and glass with views of Table Mountain on one side and the Atlantic on the other. It was a fortress disguised as luxury. Ayana had clocked 17 security cameras, motion sensors on every entrance, and armed guards at the gate within her first hour. She had also clocked Dante watching her. Not the casual watching of an employer, the focused watching of someone conducting surveillance. He knew something was wrong with her. He just didn't know it yet. The first real conversation. It happened on day 4 in the library. She was shelving books, a task that gave her access to the entire ground floor without appearing to snoop, when he walked in with a file folder and a scowl. He stopped when he saw her. "You read Russian." She looked at the book in her hand. Dostoevsky. She had picked it up without thinking.
"Some," she said carefully.
"Where did you learn?" "University." True. She had studied languages at King's College London before the syndicate recruited her. "What else do you speak?" She could have lied. Should have lied. But something about the way he asked, not suspicious this time, just curious, made her answer honestly. "French, Arabic, Portuguese, some Mandarin." His expression shifted. "That's not a maid's skill set. It's a survivor's skill set," she said. "You learn what helps you move." He studied her. "Where did you move from?" "Everywhere." She set the book on the shelf. "I'm very good at leaving." "And very bad at staying?" "Yes." Something passed across his face. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. As though he understood that particular skill better than he wanted to admit. "I don't trust you," he said. "I know, but I'm not firing you. Not yet." He picked up the file he'd come for. "Rafe thinks I'm being paranoid. He says you're exactly what you appear to be, someone running from something and trying to stay invisible." "Rafe is a good judge of character," Ayana said. "He is." Dante turned to leave. At the door, he stopped. "The problem is, so am I. And my judgment says you're dangerous. I just haven't figured out to whom yet."
He left.
Ayana stood in the library and thought. To you eventually. If we're not both very careful. If you're enjoying this story and want to see what happens next, please subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us as we continue bringing these stories to life. The threat arrives. It came in the form of a photograph, delivered to the estate's front gate in an unmarked envelope. No return address. No note. Just a photograph of Ayana, taken 3 weeks ago in Nairobi, standing over a body. Rafe brought it to Dante. Dante brought it to her. She was in the kitchen when he walked in and set it on the counter between them.
He didn't say anything.
He just looked at her with those pale gray eyes that had gone from suspicious to something colder. Ayana looked at the photograph, then at him. "Start talking," he said. "And this time, I want the truth or you're leaving this estate in the back of a security vehicle." She calculated rapidly. Lying would get her thrown out. The truth might get her killed. Partial truth was the only option. "I worked for private contractors," she said. "Intelligence. The syndicate. I left 6 months ago. They don't accept resignations. That," she gestured at the photo, "was the man they sent after me. I defended myself. Now they've sent more." Dante was very still. "You're an operative." "Was. And you came to my house. Because your house is a fortress and I needed somewhere they wouldn't think to look." She met his eyes. "I didn't lie about needing to disappear. I just didn't tell you why." "The syndicate." He said it like he was tasting poison. "They've been trying to access my shipping routes for 2 years. You could be. If I were still with them, you'd already be compromised," Ayana said. "I've had access to your security protocols, your schedules, your files. If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it by now." He picked up the photograph. "Who else is coming?" "I don't know. But they're coming. That photo is a message. They know where I am. Then you need to leave." "I know." "Tonight." "I know." She had already started planning it. Where she would go. How she would move. The next city. The next identity. Dante was quiet for a moment. Then he said something she did not expect. "Or you stay." She looked at him. "The syndicate wants access to my operations," he said. They've been probing for weaknesses. If they're sending people after you, they'll use that. They'll threaten my estate to draw you out, which means whether you leave or stay, I'm already involved. He set the photo down. So you stay. We deal with them together. And when it's done, we renegotiate what you are to this household. Why would you do that? Because, he said, I've spent 9 days watching you, and whatever else you are, you're not someone who runs unless you have to. And I respect that. A pause. Also, Rafe likes you. And Rafe is never wrong. What changes? They became partners. Not friends. The distrust ran too deep. But partners in the operational sense. He gave her access to his security systems. She gave him everything she knew about syndicate protocols. They worked late into the night in his study, mapping vulnerabilities, planning responses. And somewhere in the third night, leaning over the same tactical map, their hands brushed and neither pulled away. Dante looked at her. Really looked, the way he had been trying not to for 9 days. This is a bad idea, he said. I know, she said. You're still lying to me about something. I can feel it. I know. And I still don't trust you. I don't trust you either, she said. You're a crime lord who's probably killed more people than I have. Probably, he agreed. They were standing very close. The Cape Town night pressed against the windows. Table Mountain loomed in the darkness outside. This is a terrible idea, he said again. The worst, she agreed. He kissed her anyway. And she kissed him back with all the desperate, complicated want of two people who knew exactly how bad an idea this was and didn't care at all. The truth about Jonas Wolfe. Dante's father arrived 3 days later. Jonas Wolfe was 68, silver-haired, with the bearing of a man who had built an empire and believed it still belonged to him. He had stepped down from operational leadership 5 years ago under circumstances Dante never discussed. He lived in Germany now. He was not supposed to be in Cape Town. He walked into the estate like he owned it because legally he still did. Dante had operational control. Jonas had the title deed. Iana watched from the hallway as Dante and his father faced each other in the entrance hall. The resemblance was striking, same height, same build, same gray eyes. But where Dante's eyes were careful, Jonas's were calculating. Father, Dante said. Flat. Controlled. Dante. Jonas looked around the entrance hall with an expression of someone conducting an inspection. Still keeping mother's renovations, I see. Sentimental of you. What are you doing here? I heard you were having syndicate problems. Jonas's eyes flicked to Iana. Lingered. And that you'd hired someone interesting. The revelation. Rafe pulled Iana aside an hour later. You need to know something, he said. Jonas built this organization with syndicate backing. 20 years ago. They funded his expansion in exchange for access to shipping routes. When Dante took over, he cut those ties. The syndicate has been trying to get them back ever since. Iana's blood went cold. Jonas is working with them. We think so. We can't prove it, but his timing is too convenient. Rafe looked toward the study where Dante and Jonas were closeted together. If he finds out your ex-syndicate, he'll use it. He'll tell Dante you're still working for them, that you're here to compromise the operations from the inside. I'm not. I know that. You know that. But Jonas will make Dante doubt. And Dante, his relationship with his father is complicated. If Jonas pushes the right way, Dante will believe him over you. What do I do? Tell Dante first. Before Jonas does. Tell him everything, including whatever you're still hiding. She found Dante on the terrace after midnight. He was standing at the rail looking out at the city, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight with tension that hadn't been there before his father arrived. Your father knows about me, Iana said. He didn't turn. I know. He's going to tell you I'm still working for the syndicate, that I'm here to infiltrate your operations. I know that too. He turned to face her. Are you?
No.
She stepped closer. But I haven't told you everything. And if your father knows what I'm about to tell you, he'll use it to destroy any trust we've built. Then tell me first. She took a breath. The syndicate didn't just contract me for intelligence work. They contracted me because I'm good at getting close to people, at becoming what they need. I've done this before, gone into a target's life, earned trust, extracted information. She held his gaze. When I came here, it was to hide. But you need to know that I have the skill set to do exactly what your father is going to accuse me of. And you need to decide if you believe I'm not using it. The silence stretched. Are you, he asked, using it? At first, yes. The languages, the competence, staying invisible, that was training. But everything after, she stopped. Started again. Everything that happened in your study, everything that's happening now, that's not training. That's just me. Wanting you. Trusting you. Terrified that I'm wrong too. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the conflict in his eyes. My father is going to offer me proof that you're lying. Fabricated, probably, but convincing. And he's going to tell me that choosing you over him means choosing to lose this estate. The organization. Everything. I know, she said. And he's going to be right about the stakes. If I believe you over him, I lose the legal backing I need to keep control. He'll take it back. He'll reinstate the syndicate ties. Everything I've built will be gone. Her heart was breaking. Then don't choose me. I'm not worth. You are. He said it with absolute certainty. That's the problem. You're worth it, and I've known you for 12 days, and that should terrify me more than it does. He kissed her. Hard and desperate and final, like a man who had just made a decision that was going to cost him everything. When they broke apart, he said, "Tomorrow morning, my father is going to force a choice. I'm going to choose you, and then we're going to deal with whatever comes after. Together." Dante, I know what I'm doing, he said. For the first time in my life, I actually know exactly what I'm doing. Jonas makes his move. The meeting happened in the morning room. Jonas, Dante, Rafe, and Dr. Zaralu, the estate doctor, who also served as witness to family business when needed. Ayana was not invited. She stood in the hallway outside, listening through the door that had been left deliberately ajar. The woman you've been sleeping with, Jonas said without preamble, is an active syndicate operative. I have proof. Communications. Transfer records. She's been feeding them your security protocols for 2 weeks. No, Dante said. She hasn't. I have evidence, fabricated evidence, which the syndicate created specifically to make me doubt her, which you're presenting because you want me to reinstate the syndicate contracts you signed 20 years ago. Dante's voice was ice. I know about the backing, Father. I know about the deal you made. And I know you've been working with them to undermine me since the day I cut those ties. Silence. If you choose her, Jonas said slowly, I will invoke the inheritance clause. I will take back operational control. And I will reinstate every contract you've spent 5 years dismantling. I know. You'll lose everything. Not everything. Dante stood. Rafe. Prepare transfer documents. Dr. Liu, you're here as witness. My father is about to learn that the estate title was transferred into an irrevocable trust 3 years ago, with Rafe and Dr. Liu as trustees. I have operational control. He has a legal claim to nothing. Jonas's face went white. I saw this coming, Dante said. The moment you started making contact with syndicate representatives, I started moving assets. You have no power here, Father. You never did. You were just too arrogant to notice I'd taken it away. After, Jonas left Cape Town that afternoon. Ayana watched his car disappear down the hillside road and felt something release in her chest that she hadn't known was locked. Dante found her in the library an hour later.
He's gone, he said.
I know. Rafe is dismantling the last of his network. The syndicate will try other angles, but without Jonas's backing, they're out of easy access. He sat on the arm of the chair where she'd curled up with a book she wasn't reading. You're safe. As safe as anyone is in this life. And you, she asked. What did it cost you? My father, he said. But we haven't been family for a long time. Not really.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. He looked at her with those gray eyes that had gone from suspicious to something infinitely warmer. I chose you over an empire I didn't want. That's not a loss. What is it then? The smartest thing I've ever done. He reached out, tucked a lock of hair behind her ear.
Stay.
Not as a maid. Not as someone hiding. Just stay.
As you.
With me. Ayana looked at the man she had hated on sight, distrusted for 12 days, and fallen impossibly, recklessly in love with somewhere in the space between tactical planning and midnight confessions. Yes, she said. He kissed her then, in the Cape Town sunlight streaming through the library windows, and it felt like coming home to a place she had known she'd been looking for. 6 months later, the syndicate made 2 more attempts. Both failed. Ayana had, it turned out, skills that were extremely useful when applied to protection rather than infiltration. She redesigned the estate's security protocols. She trained the staff. She became, in Rafe's words, the most terrifying person in this household who isn't actively committing crimes. Dante had laughed at that. Then he'd pulled her into his study and kissed her in a way that suggested he found terrifying, extremely attractive. They were not simple together. They argued about tactics, about trust, about the fact that Ayana still sometimes woke up at 3 a.m. with her hand reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. But they were real together. And after years of being whoever the mission required, real was the thing Ayana wanted most. Dr. Liu had taken to joining them for dinner on Thursdays. She and Ayana had developed a friendship based on the shared experience of being the smartest people in most rooms and being quietly exhausted by it. Zara knew about the syndicate. She knew about Jonas. She knew everything, and she had simply said, "You're both disasters. I'm glad you found each other." Rafe had been best man at the extremely small, extremely private wedding they'd had 3 months ago on the terrace overlooking Table Mountain. He had cried. He denied this when anyone brought it up. The photographs proved otherwise. On a Saturday morning in November, Ayana woke to find Dante already awake, watching her with the expression he got when he was thinking something he hadn't figured out how to say yet.
What? She said.
I was just thinking, he said, about the day you arrived. How certain I was that you were here to destroy me. I was, she said, just not in the way you thought. He laughed, pulled her closer. You didn't destroy me. You rebuilt me. We rebuilt each other, she corrected. That too. Outside, Cape Town was waking up. The mountain was clear against the morning sky. The ocean caught the first light like scattered diamonds. And in this house that had been a hiding place and had become a home, 2 people who had started as enemies held each other in the quiet and knew, with absolute certainty, that they had found exactly what they'd been looking for. Even if neither of them had known they were looking for it at all, this story has reached its conclusion. Thank you all for following this story. If you enjoyed it, please write in the comments where you're watching from and share your thoughts about the story. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video as your support is important for me to continue creating content.
Until the next story.